Welcome to Checkmate the Future of Strategy. Now, please join me in welcoming to the stage co-founder and chairman of Animal Brands, Mr. Yat Siu, and the greatest chess player of all time, Magnus Carlsen!
So Magnus, yeah, thank you. This is a stage that I have wanted to sit on for a long time, with two people that I've wanted to put on stage together for even longer. The greatest strategists in the history of chess, and one of the clearest thinkers in the world on what's coming next. Do you guys know actually it's the first time ever Magnus has been to Hong Kong? Woo! So let's get to it. Magnus, this is your first time ever in Hong Kong, and also your first public appearance. How do you feel about Hong Kong, apart from the rain?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I was going to mention. No, it's certainly a little bit of a different world than I'm used to, in the sense that, well, there are more people here than in the whole of Norway, it's kind of everything just crammed into one place. It's all like super busy and just like very different from the life that I'm used to. But I'm excited to be here. I think I first really heard about Hong Kong in '97 when the handover happened. I remember I watched that on TV, like the whole show and everything, and to me, it just stuck because the whole history was so fascinating. I always wanted a chance to come here, and yeah, now we can walk.
Amazing, Magnus. I know typically you talk about chess, but now you're in this setting in a hotel ballroom, speaking about the future of strategy. How do you feel right now?
I don't know. I'm going to talk about chess, and you guys can connect it to the future of strategy.
Thank you. And yeah, you've spent your career working at the intersection of things: gaming, AI. What made chess the next intersection?
Well, I mean, I think first, chess is highly strategic. It's also very human, right? It's actually, I find, when you look at AI, in a way, and it's, I don't know when was the last time Magnus actually, I would imagine you'd be using AI to train a lot, probably. But I think the point is that it's not as fun to see two AIs play each other, because it misses out on this entire human nature, the psychology. I think just the beauty of watching the game in and of itself. Because there is drama in human life, there's emotions and feelings around that. And I think that, in a way, you have such a highly technically sort of capable, intelligent game that at this age where we have super intelligence coming to us, what is it the part about that game that actually preserves the humanity? And it's all the other side of the interaction that's kind of part of that. That's actually why I remember as a child I got into games. My parents would look at video games almost like, oh, you're playing with machines, you look at the screen, doesn't mean anything. But for me, it was about the human interaction on the other side. Right? Most people who don't play games probably don't know that 80% of people who play games play because of friendship, because of social. Right? And I think that to me is a real power. And the oldest game in the world actually is a great representation for that, and the complexity as well attached to it. That's what drew us to chess. And why, and by the way, a very, very touching talk. Very special, and I think it all connects very beautifully.
Thanks, Yat. So, Magnus, regarding gaming, regarding AI, can you share some games that you play? And what do you think about AI in general, in the scope of chess or business in general?
It's interesting what you were talking about earlier, yeah, with AI and people wanting to watch AIs play. First of all, there are some sickos out there, like my coach Peter. He loves doing that. And what's interesting about that is that we've been fascinated about computers and chess for many, many years. But up until the last maybe 7-8 years or so ago, we thought, the best way to teach computers to play chess was, give them some parameters that humans thought were necessary, and then you kind of let their computing power take it from there. And it turns out that AI, just by self-learning, actually plays a brand of chess that's kind of a lot more human and more intuitive than the previous engines would. So actually, like watching a neural net-based engine play a more traditional engine is quite interesting because they evaluate things quite differently. Apart from that, with games that I play, I play chess. I kind of didn't grow up playing a lot of games. I think we had some learning games at home in terms of computer games, but we kind of had limited computer time a week. One thing our parents, I think, did very, very well. And I would generally spend that time either playing chess online, or sometimes we have this one. I think it was called Rebel chess engine that I played against, but to be honest, that didn't help me that much because I quickly learned that against certain openings it would play very, very bad lines, and I kind of just wanted to game it that way and beat it. So I've never been too much of a gamer. I've had like periods where I've played a bit of FIFA, I played some poker and so on, but it's been chess for the last almost 30 years.
Hello, yeah. What's your favorite game?
Well, I mean, we invest in a lot of games, so it's kind of like picking out your favorite child. So, not sure, but I would say, one of the games that I did appreciate a lot when my children was Minecraft, because that was the game that actually brought people together. It was about building, right? And I think today, the two biggest games in the world, which is Roblox and Minecraft, are actually builder games. It has nothing to do with graphics. I mean, those two games and graphics are frankly quite primitive in comparison to Fortnite or the Call of Duties out there, but it's the fact that people can build their own environments, and the satisfaction comes from other people experiencing that environment, right? So it's kind of, you create literally, it's like you create your own game, almost like your own variant of a board game or a chess game or whatever, then you have fun with it, and the validation comes from other people experiencing that fun. Which again is human because it's about sharing, right? Like, I look at it a little bit like, why do people invite people to their homes and have dinner, gatherings, get together? For the younger generation, that is the world, in the virtual world, that is their gathering. That's where they come together, not just in a social setting, let's like share photos. It's more around, hey, let's do something together, let's go on a quest, let's do a mission. That actually binds people together in a much more social thing. But I do have a question for Magnus, if I may, right? Which is, like when you talk about how technology tunes machines better, like car engines and so on, but I'm actually interested to understand amongst you and your peers whether, to what degree technology and AI tunes you, right? Do you use it that way? Is it common, or is it frowned upon? And is there a world you see in the future where those that have maybe the better technology would have an edge in the mastery of chess, or do you think that is an element? What part is human and what is technology?
No, so I think this is an interesting point because I think most of that is in the past. There certainly was a technological advantage, both in terms of kind of early development, having good tools in order to gain as much information early on, and also specifically for opening analysis and preparation for big tournaments, having more kind of raw data power and people who knew how to use them better was very important. Now everything is so so easily available. Your phone is probably gonna spit out the same thing in 5 seconds as the best engines will find in hours. So it's kind of all been democratized, and it's really hard to gain any advantage. But on the other hand, these tools make it even easier for people in any corner of the world. Like, these are not expensive tools or anything that you can use to gain a lot of information and improve in a short amount of time. So for me specifically, I always, I check my games with the engines after them, but I generally try not to rely too much on it and on an everyday basis, because I need to understand how my opponent is gonna, like, it's interesting for me to see how the engines think and I can learn from it, but most of the time, like, I need to be able to think like a human to know what to do against a human. And so you gotta understand, like, even after all of the hours that we've spent on chess, we're still so bad at it, essentially, that you gotta, like, dumb things down a little bit for somebody like me to understand what's going on and for my opponents as well.
I mean, I guess my takeaway is that because of the democratization and the broad intelligence that's available to everyone, to be number one in chess is much harder today than it was before. Which means expert vote status.
Well, I would say that like, having a big advantage over your peers is definitely more difficult than before. But we'll see. Somebody might come along who just is using tools in a completely different way. Somebody who's kind of learned chess in a different way from the get-go, because we definitely have a digital generation coming up now, or who's there now, but we don't have the AI generation. So we'll see how that will look like.
So Magnus, I want to ask you a question about the future of chess, because I know you are like promoting chess 960, for example, freestyle. Do you think one of the reasons is we're now in an era where people are growing up on TikToks, fast-paced, and chess could be like a bit boring at times, the classical way? Is that one of the reasons? And do you think the future of chess will be more going towards the more fast-paced, more TikTok-y content?
I'm not sure. I generally think chess will be faster. What I'm pretty sure about is the way that people will consume it will be in shorter formats. So whether the games are longer or whatever is going on, I think if the broadcasts are really long, people are mainly gonna consume the recaps on YouTube or the shorts on whatever platform they're using. So in that sense, it doesn't matter that much. But I think in terms of live broadcasts to be interesting, it really should be a bit shorter than it has been. But we'll see. Most of all, I think that shorter time formats generally kind of lends itself better to showcase your skills a little bit more, because the defensive resources in classical chess are a bit too high. Now, recently, we actually have a generation right now of young players who are incredible fighters, and part of that, frankly, is that they kind of lost the art of defense a little bit. or like trying to block, which there used to be a thing like in World Championships, essentially, that if you really, really wanted to try and block, you could ensure that most of the games are drawn. And a lot of the kids today, like, they have no idea how to do that, and so all the games end up being very fighting, which is great in many ways, but it also gives like a little bit of a false sense of where the game is actually at.
That's an interesting comment because it's an all or nothing type of attitude as well. Right? It's like the sort of the binary outcome. But I think one of the things that certainly we see in this trend, I think chess and everything else is part of that is as humans we're wired to learn. And really what it comes down to is how do you get information the quickest possible way? And you can argue that TikTok and Instagram have hacked the system in a way that we think, because it is information, even if it is doom scrolling and it's not valuable information. But you think that in your half an hour that you're basically scrolling through your feed, you're actually getting 30, 40, 50 pieces of information as opposed to one or two from like a traditional news cycle. And our brain basically, with the dopamine loop, starts to respond to that because it's learning something and it gets excitement around that, right? That's part of the criticisms why social media companies are saying you can't do that, or when your children, how to control that aspect a little bit better because, patience isn't a great virtue of many of the kids that are out there. I think there are enough people in the audience that remember when we went to the movies. I think the introduction of the sort of introducing the movie with all the names of the actors was probably 5 minutes right before the movie even started. And of course today, you can't start a movie this way. You have to go straight into it. Someone dies, someone falls off a cliff, something happens, and then you go, okay, what's going on? Right? You're always constantly trying to sort of hook them in. And I think that culture has pervaded through everything. But it comes down to that we want quickest access to information more efficiently as possible. And I think it just feeds into that.
Cool. So I would like to actually touch on education a little bit, because we're filled with a room of parents and also kids. Will be more kids in the evening for sure. And also congratulations Magnus on having a baby boy as well. So as a new father, how would you think of education? Like in a way that, obviously you have a lot of chess experience, and then undoubtedly you will be teaching the baby boy chess. But what do you think about the era of your kid growing up, like with all the changes?
It's interesting what you were talking about earlier, and that the skills that are being taught at school are not necessarily that useful in life, and that very much aligns with my philosophy from the start that that the whole school system was kind of a little bit flawed, and certainly wasn't for me. Honestly, I'm at a point now where I don't really care what he's gonna do. Like, I have zero ambitions for him other than being healthy and happy. So that's hard to say. If he doesn't even want to learn chess, I will not not spend a calorie worrying about that. I do think though that for general education, chess is very good, but playing chess professionally probably doesn't do you a lot of good, since you're trained to think within very specific parameters and being very precise rather than creative. And this can be, I think, very good in certain very regimented jobs, but for general brain development, I don't think it's I don't think it's good. So in terms of education, I recommend chess heartily in every way, but not like excessively, because then you will be thinking of everything as within 64 squares and very specific patterns.
So parents, take note, there's no need to become a grandmaster. Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, first, education is, I guess, as a parent of three older kids, has always been a passion point because you kind of see where the system's going. Quick shout out to the Dalton School over there, Pega and Sean. I'm on the board of that. And I think part of the reason why sort of that vision and mission is so important is that you mentioned earlier, Magnus, about creativity. I think that is the one of the most important skills that we need to maintain as a human. And maybe a quick anecdote, I have spoken about this earlier, but there's a study by George Mann and Bethany Jarvis in the 60s, what became part of the broader work of the late Ken Robinson, where he analyzed, basically what they did was they did divergent thinking tests for NASA sort of scientists. And in the 60s, it was, you needed to hire really creative and divergent people, because if they were going to send someone up to the moon or into space, there was no rule book that said, if rocket has a problem, then do this, but you basically had problems. They didn't really create. They took a version of that test, and they followed children from the age of 5 to 15, and then gave that same test to people who were 21 years of age. And children who were 5 years of age were able to solve problems in a divergent and creative manner 91% of the time. And that did away with this entire argument, which of course is more accepted today, that creativity isn't taught. You're born with it. Every human is born with creative innate abilities. And so the problem, and there was another aspect of that, of course, by the time they were 8 and 10, by the time they were 15, it dropped to 8%. And of course, it's because you go to schooling, you have rules, you have systems, all these things that constrain you, and the adults at 21, 2%. Now, what's interesting about that stat is there's another thing that correlates with that stat, which is the entrepreneurial index. People who build companies who are outside thinkers, not just the Elon Musks, but just everyone who's just building businesses and so on, is roughly 2% as well. So it's like the round hole square peg sort of quote by Steve Jobs, the same thing, right? If you're crazy enough to change if you think you're crazy enough to change the world, you likely will. But that percentage of people is very small because we sort of educated out of people because we need to make machines in the sort of classic Victorian age stuff. But now in this world, the computer, AI does all of that for you. You don't need to be the machine. So what is it that's left that makes you human? It's the ability to feel, it's emotions, it's creativity, and build problems and build solutions to these problems that do that. And I think the fascinating output, which is I think what education ought to really sort of focus on, is if you can preserve the creative index such that the adult population is not 2% creative, but 4% creative. It's still a small number, but effectively doubled the creative GDP output just by starting at the young age, right? So take that number to 4%, take it to 10%, take it to 20%. That means, in my generation, to be an entrepreneur was because you were unemployed, right? An entrepreneur was equivalent to unemployment. My mother would never be okay with me not having a job, right? Because that was not the world that we grew up in. You had to be a job and work for someone. Today, if you're an entrepreneur, it's kind of cool, right? And in the future, I think everyone will just be an entrepreneur. It'll be in the first path that you go, because everyone will sort of go there towards it. And I think that's the part that we have to let our children be unconstrained on.
Thanks, Yat and Magnus. So, probably time for the final question for both of you guys. So Magnus, you have spent basically your life playing chess, and Yat, you have spent basically your life building companies. If you guys had a chance to go back to 25-year-old, what would you do differently?
25 years ago?
25 years old when you were, or 20.
15 for me.
I'm honestly somebody who doesn't look back a lot. So I'm happy where I am. I'm happy with the journey I've been on, and with the people I've been on the journey. with, and and that's more than enough for me. I would have said it 25, I don't know. You're doing all right. Don't worry. And I don't think he was worried either, so I don't have too much to say.
Maybe I'm with Magnus on this one, because I think, first of all, I'm very happy where I am. You know, happy married to my wife, Michelle here, 3 kids, and all good. I think the main thing for me is that if I had known something differently, the trajectory would change because I would act on that. The moment someone tells you something, it impacts and influences you. It's not just a butterfly effect, it's just how you are. And I think many of the lessons that I feel as humans, we have to learn our lessons emotionally too. I don't think you can learn them entirely just by reading in a book or having a theory around it. And maybe you could call it wasted time, but I think that's a quality of ours. Right? So, you know, how many people have read something they shouldn't have done, but then they did it anyway, right? Or someone thought you should not do that, but they did it anyway, right? Because of a feeling that they had, or a gut that they had, or an intuition that they had. I don't think we can lose that. The lessons that I've learned from the mistakes are more valuable than necessarily the successes, so-called, that I've had. I wouldn't have experienced them if someone told me, these are the 10 things you shouldn't have done.
So thank you, Magnus, thank you, Yat. Truly, Hong Kong, give them both a hand. So Magnus, feel free to continue to have your lunch. And Yat, we will pass on the stage to you to talk about agentic AI and the future of Web3.